Hello, fellow Sublime Text Fanatics. OdatNurd here. Welcome back to this live stream number 21 on Sublime Text live coding. We're going to be working on aliases and key context in the HyperHelp package tonight, along with potentially some other things, which we will get to in just a moment. But for right now, I just realized that my Fitbit has been complaining all day that its battery is in dire need of charging. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that into the charger right now. Ooh, 17%, really riding it to the bitter edge there, dude. So that will charge up and we can get rolling on this thing. We got a lot to talk about here. So there was no live stream last week, and my apologies for that. You may recall about a month ago, maybe longer, could even be longer than that. I was having fan problems in one of the servers under my desk. I sort of got that one resolved with a fan, and then the other one started complaining about things. And in the middle of week before last, the fan in the power supply of my server itself went south, and it was literally vibrating my desk to such a degree that I have this Dell laptop that I use for work, and I was recording some demos to show to my coworkers using the internal mic. And when I played it back, it just sounded like there was a Corvette rumbling on my desk, and I had to spirit the laptop away into another room to record there because it was far enough away from the noise. But I got that all sorted out. Now the fans sound louder than I think they used to. They don't sound like they're ailing, they just sound like they're moving air, but I'm super hyped about the whole thing. In any case, welcome to this live stream. We are definitely live here, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about, as we can see from this multi-bulleted list. We're going to go over the changes made since that last stream. Which were some changes made to HyperHelp itself. And then we're going to get into things that we're going to look at here that are from my HyperHelp to-do list. We can see up in here. We more or less have HyperHelp at a place where it's pretty good. We're just going to be adding some more things here to the core. And from there, we will be able to start working on the authoring tools, and that was going to get us into a position to actually be able to do something. And then if we can finish the stuff that we want to do here, which is there's a bug where I think there is a bug. It may have fixed it. There's a lot of items in this to-do list where help topic aliases might be case sensitive in a way that they're not supposed to be. We'll have to investigate that and see. Excuse me. And also I want to change/update the key binding context that we're using for some ideas that I had for the authoring tools and how they could work. There are a couple of those right now. They're kind of crude. We're going to add in some more of those. If you've never seen, or if you don't know that you can make your own key contexts to make your key bindings only trigger in certain exact situations. We're going to be covering some of that tonight, at least hopefully, fingers crossed. And if we get through all of that, we're going to investigate how to best bump the minimum version of Sublime for override audit. Now, just very 10,000 foot overview. I've said this before. We are going to release version 2 of Override Audit, which is the result of a lot of work in the branch called the BSR for the Big Scary Refactor. More or less has the same functionality, just laid out in a different, easier to extend way. There were some bug fixes in that we backported to the legacy 1. Whatever versions that we've been working on. Some of the features in there I forward ported into Override Audit 2, so they are at parity. I do not want to fiddle with that package anymore until we do the official release of version 2, so I don't have to keep merging things back and forth, because that's a giant pain in the old rumperoo. And Sublime Text version 3.2 is on the horizon. It's hopefully going to drop, quote unquote, any day now. Wait and see. I think all of the main features for this, the mini diff functionality, is now in play. So hopefully soon. I would like to use that build as the new minimum build for that is required for override audit to run, because that'll be the latest, greatest version. It will allow us to take advantage of the mini diff functionality when we're working with editing an override. We can have the mini diff functionality actually tell us right in the buffer how our file is different from the underlying override, which might be useful. I don't know. It's an idea I had. And we want to be able to keep the old version still available. We got to figure out how to pull that off. But first, let's go ahead and, as we see here, go over the changes made since the last stream. So code from the previous stream was cleaned up and checked in, and that is visible right here in the left-hand pane. This one class here has been constructed based on the code from not, the last stream, which was 2 weeks ago at this point. And very simply, when you create an instance of this class, it's a init method. Make sure you only ever create one. Otherwise, it does nothing. It's a singleton class. It captures a handle to the user preferences, caches the contents of the ignored packages setting, and then sets up a trigger callback to be invoked every time this settings object changes for any reason. Settings changed is the bottom part of this, in which we ask the settings what their new list of ignored packages is and do nothing if it's the same as what it used to be. Then we perform some set calculations to see what packages used to be in the list of ignored packages that aren't anymore, and which packages have been added that weren't there previously. And then for everything that was added to the list of ignored packages, we use that functionality we worked on in that stream to unload help indexes from that physical package or packages that have been ignored. And conversely, if a package has been removed, we scan it for help indexes and bring them in. So as packages are installed, we will load their help indexes. If a package is removed or just disabled, the help indexes are unloaded. And as an extra bonus, if package control updates a package, it first adds it to the list of ignored packages to make sure that it can modify the file. That will cause us to unload the help index. After it updates the file, we'll rescan when it comes out of the list, and any help index it might have will implicitly reload. How great is that? And there's, of course, a class method here on unregister, which, if there is a global instance, turns off the settings listener and then removes our instance. Now, that's important because once you call add-on change, that callback will be called forever for the current instance of Sublime, and it is possible for our plugin to be reloaded, especially during development. You don't want to have multiple things that are watching for an add-on change setting, because then everything that settings changed will happen multiple times. In our case, probably not a big deal because we're using a singleton class, so it can only ever really happen one time probably, but better safe than sorry. And then, as we can see down here in plugin loaded and unloaded, we create an instance of package index watcher when the plugin loads, and we tell it to unregister itself when we're unloaded. And that's all there is to say about that. That code is actually pretty self-explanatory. Now, when I made that change, boy, am I talking fast here. You'd think I just drank a half a cup of coffee and I still have a half a cup left. I noticed a bug in the bootstrapper wherein we accidentally blocked bootstrapping when an unpacked package exists when we should not. And that is going to be, I think, over here in this file right here. And as we can see, I reworked this code a little bit. The idea here, of course, is when we decide, we're checking to see if we should bootstrap the package, which happens the very first time any package that implements hyperhelp calls the initialize function to make sure the help system is initialized. And multiple packages can do that, but only the first one will have an effect. We check to see, is there an unpacked package by the name of hyperhelp, which is what our bootstrapped package is going to be named. And if there is, we don't want to bootstrap, and we do in fact want to display a message. This message right here, which, as we can see here, is basically a nice way of saying, if you have a package unpacked here, no matter how much I bootstrap updates from the dependency into a package, you're probably not going to get the full update because you have an unpacked package. Those files are going to override. So it tells you not to do that, and it refuses to bootstrap in that case, because that's going to put the help system into a potentially unstable state. Whatever state it's in right now is probably as stable as the user wants it to be. If we were to bootstrap new code in and it partially depends on code that the user is overriding, things aren't going to work. It's going to be a support nightmare. Now, that's exactly what we want. We also, as we can see by this setting here, this is a hidden setting that we actually want there so that we as developers can turn this off and have it work, because as we saw in the stream last, um, the easiest way to work on the hyperhelp package itself, not the dependency, but the actual package, is to override files. And once you get everything working, you can take your overrides and put them back into the dependency so that they can be bootstrapped out. So we do want that to happen, in which case when this setting is set, it should just display a log message like it's doing here, just so that people know if they look in the console, things might not be kosher before it actually checks to see if it should bootstrap or not. Stupidly, this was this line was up here, and if the setting was true, it would log this and return, thus not bootstrap. And if the setting wasn't set, it would log this and return, and thus error out and not bootstrap. Either way, an unpacked package would block all bootstrapping, which is totally not what we wanted. So I rejiggered the logic here to put that one to the top with the false as a return, and this one just logs if it falls through, and then it bootstraps. And with that, we have a more or less functional thing. We actually pushed a new release up to version 0.0.3, if I had to recall. Now, we can get on with the topic at hand, which is aliases should not be case sensitive. Now, this is one of those things. Ooh, my neighbor upstairs is either bowling or dragging a couch across the floor by herself. Unsure which. Wonder if that came through the mic. Aliases are something that we can see in help topics that allows you to provide another alternate name, which realistically isn't necessarily something we need now that we have added the functionality for making anchors and links link to topics or define topics other than the text that they're in. Aliases were a way to have, say, a link to region and a link to regions, the word pluralized, so that you could link to that page with different text than the word region. I don't know. I have left it in there because it does seem like there's maybe some utility in just using potentially alternate names as aliases for topics to make them easier to look up. And I think we maybe want to try to add aliases to the index if they're not already there. So those sorts of things. But help topics are supposed to be case sensitive, and aliases are supposed to be case sensitive. And at least at some point, I thought they weren't, and that was causing problems. And I don't actually know if that's fixed or not. So we're going to check that out here, because that's a usability issue. And as an extra side benefit, it allows us to put off having to work on that whole contexts thing. This is the help for user. Okay, and this is the file for test.txt. So if I said browse available help for user and test.txt, we can view that help file up there. Oh yeah, this does have some other syntax elements in it. I think we can see, yeah. There's maybe still some more work to do cleaning up that as well. I'm not actually sure if that's on my list of things. I'm not even sure why I decided it should look that particular way, but the idea was, yeah, as we recall from a previous stream, some anchors can do that. They can be headings, so there can be an implicit table of contents in the help. So I'm going to remove all of those for the time being, and then I can reload that help and they go away. And here's an example of this. Okay, so this alias is header. I'm going to make it capital H here because case sensitivity is probably going to kick us in the butt with uppercase because everything else tends towards the lower. And if we wanted to link, whoops. Oh yeah, I can't do that there. What is that actually doing? Huh, that's weird. I was actually trying to type a vertical pipe, and because it's on the last line, it jumps down there, but it doesn't do it here. That's weird, but we will leave well enough alone. We actually want to do that in this thing here. And we want the link to be in this package to a topic named header, lowercase, and say jump to the header. And then we can go up here and reload this. Now, this links to the text header, and it actually jumps there. So maybe this isn't a oh, you know what? Haha. Reload that help index. Okay, now reload the help file. It says it links to header. It still seems to go there. See, this is why I'm not sure if this is actually something that actually needs to be fixed. I might have fixed this already in a previous stream, as a matter of fact. I just forgot to check it off. I just don't remember if I did it or not. Just to be sure, let's name this file, reload it. Now if we lint it, oops, that's not the lint function. That's the lint function. Title and file. Okay, so link references unknown topic header with lowercase, but that's actually file uppercase. So let's go here and change this to file. And if I reload this, that still links to file and still jumps there. So I might have, oh, I gotta stop doing that. I might have actually fixed this one. All right, so we're gonna call that. I mean, those linter warnings are nothing cool, nothing to worry about too much. But I think that means that this problem is actually fixed. I think all of the topic I had on there was that currently aliases are case sensitive. Uh, oh, where those may be an existing alias or topic that matches. Oh, maybe we need extra stuff here. So what if we made a new topic that just said the topic was file lowercase and the caption was a sample collision maybe? Now if I reload this, we may see something in the console here. Invalid JSON detected. Oh, what did I do? Oh, I forgot to put a comma there. Okay, try that again. Topic file is already an alias in user text. Okay, so it does seem to still be detecting that. Now, whether or not it picks one or the other is one of those implementation dependent things because the keys of, well, I guess the list of items in a list are definitely ordered, but the list of the help file keys are not. So there's no real way to guarantee which one should be picked. If we were curious about which one of these topics it should pick. So I'm going to say that that's probably fixed, and we will leave that as well be until we know better. So now we're going to work on some key binding context. Now this part is, this could take a long time. This could take no time at all. We may find ourselves with a dearth of things to do here, in which case we can jump into the to-do list here. Because I do have a lot of stuff. Let's go ahead and mark that as complete for right now so that we remember. And yeah, excuse me, there is some stuff there. Ooh, yeah, okay. So I think what we're looking for is in this events file. But maybe we want to change it. Oh no, did I actually? Yeah, here it is. HyperHelp event listener. Thus, yeah. So you can see there's currently one key context here. Um, we want to have other coolerer, betterer ones for our purposes. To be honest, do I have more than just what am I doing? Oh, I think I we're gonna look at this. I'm gonna, if you don't know how what on query context does, we're gonna talk about that in just a second. I'm just trying to get something straight in my head here. If we looked in the resources and let's say the default, well, no, with Linux key bindings, for example, which do not have the nice syntax. So we might say syn key map, like so, just so that they look nice. And maximize this up. Okay, so right now we're using a selector of text hyperhelp help to know when the key is in a help document and when it's not. And then is authoring is a different thing. Okay, so technically some of the things we're doing here are not ones that actually need to be context because it will kind of work like this. But I like the idea of contexts that make more logical, shorter sense than that because this exposes the actual syntax. And I'm not sure that we're definitely going to keep the way that is. And plus, it'll just look nicer in key bindings. So I'm going to close that for the time being. And let's go over to here. Now, I should probably do that, I suppose. Now, if I was to do this, and there's two of these, event listener and view event listener, both listen to this. The difference, as we have talked about before in other streams, is that event listeners listen to every view, and one of the parameters they get is the view that the event is happening on. And view event listeners, there's one instance of it created for every view that exists, and the class has a method in it that allows it to check if it applies to a particular view based on the settings it contains, and that is checked every time the settings on the view changes. So using that, you can know for sure that the view event listener you're getting is for a specific view that definitely wants the event. You don't have to do magic checking on your own, and is particularly useful in cases where you want a view event listener that needs to keep some sort of running state based on the view that it's triggering in. Then, because there's one instance of it for every view, you can store instance variables, and every time the event triggers, it'll be different for each one. But this is the one we're doing here, which is the event listener on query context. And now I'll zoom this up. Now, so we can see here, this is called when Sublime is trying to determine if a key binding should be exposed based on that, context thing that we just saw in key bindings, and you might have seen in other key bindings. And uh, these contexts, there are a bunch of them that are built into Sublime, but as plugin authors and package authors, we can create our own specifically for purposes like we're about to do here. You get told a view, you get told a key, an operator, an operand, and a match all, which we'll cover in a minute. And basically, the key is some string that defines this context, which, as we can see in our case, is hyperhelp.isAuthoring over here for this particular one. Other contexts, if I was to go to the core key bindings and open it up and do context here, one of the keys is the context has a key of number of selections and the operator of not equal and an operand of one. So this escape only jumps to a single selection when the number of selections isn't one, right? Which of course means when it is one, this escape doesn't do anything. Similarly, here's a binding for has next field, the has previous field for working with snippets and navigating between those, or well, in this particular case, clearing the fields if that's the case. Here we have for hiding panels. This is how we have a key. It's possible for us to have a key that has multiple meanings depending on what things are. Now, the key is some thing that we want to check, like has next field, has previous field, panel visible, overlay visible, pop-up visible, number of selections, selector, which is one we use a lot to detect if a setting is a particular thing. Setting dot and the name of a setting, which is an internal thing that checks if the value of a specific setting is something. Next is the operator, which can be things like equal, not equal, regex contains, regex doesn't contain, regex match, stuff like that. And then the operand is the thing that you're comparing it to. So there are, as I said, a number of these built in. We're going to make some of our own. So one bind key context that we have currently implicitly is I want to know is this a help view so that the question mark key can do this instead of typing a question mark. And it does that by testing to see if the scope is text.hyperhelp.help. So that's using a built-in context. What we also want to know is hyperhelp is authoring. Now that one applies in this, where the scope is still text.hyperhelp.help, but this is a specific key binding that knows that if the view is not read-only, then it must be a help file that we're editing, as opposed to this one up here, which is read-only, and we can't modify it. So just using the syntax selector allows us to know if it's help. This one allows us to dial in on whether or not this file is currently in authoring, which is not a particularly good name. That's something that's a holdover from a rewrite way back when. So you'll notice here the question mark key does this, and that's because its testing is authoring and making sure that it's false. Because in this one, is authoring is true, we want to actually insert a question mark when we push that table of contents key. And there are a bunch of these that we want to have. Let's just go ahead and step through them. So one of them is the thing that we can already do, which is the current view is the help view for this currently active window. This is true only if the currently active view is the help view for the current window. This is like the context that already exists, which just using the selector, only it doesn't mention authoring because it doesn't specifically check that there's a help view because it specifically checks that there's a help view and not that the scope of the current file is the help scope. Now, again, that's probably not needed, but I like the looks of it because we're going to have all these other contexts. So current view is the help view is basically this context with a value of false. Yeah, yeah. That's the context we're using there. The next one is the current view is help source, which is the opposite one of, it's again, it's using is authoring, but now is authoring is true, which means that this file is not read-only and we can type in it. Be nicer if we know that. Next, the current view is a help index, which again, like the other ones, we could figure out by checking that this is text.hyperhelp.index. I like the idea of the other one better. This syntax is going to, fingers crossed, have some sort of major refactor in it so it can look cool like that key binding one was a second ago by knowing what keys are valid and which keys aren't and having special things for them. Next, help view is visible, only return true if the current window contains a help view, so that you could make some sort of key binding, like say the shift super H that's currently the default that jumps the hyperhelp text to the index there. We could make a key binding like that only be active when there actually is a help view currently visible. So if this view wasn't here, then pressing shift super H would do what it does now. But if this view was visible here, then instead of jumping back to there, it could do the question mark or the I and open it in the index or something along those lines. That's something we could do. I'm not saying that's something we want to do, but that's the sort of functionality we could have here. Next, help view is showing package. Now, this is only true if the current window contains a help view and the help view is showing the name of the package that you provide in the operand of the thing. So if you wanted a key binding that takes effect based on the package you're viewing help for, that's something that you could do. Now, an example of that, why I wanted to do that is right now the package for this is snappy. So maybe um, there's nothing exciting about that, but if we had help for, say, override audit, we could add a key binding for, Alt backspace or something that triggers knowing that the current view is showing help for a particular package, and it could take us specifically back to the index for this package or something context sensitive, basically, that would otherwise be harder to do or would require you to have intimate knowledge of the hidden settings that this view is using. And then this next one is the help view is showing a file, which is the same as the other one, only here the it would be able to context for, I want to know, are we showing the file event listener.txt? And again, that ties in with that previous one, help view is showing package. So we could actually, again, say in the case of override audit, say we are currently, we have a key binding where you can press Alt backspace. And if you're looking at the help file package report.txt in a package named override audit, then that keyboard shortcut causes a package report to open up. Or we can provide specific knowledge that going back should take us back to, say, the list of all of the reports, which would be a nice key binding if you're navigating through reports or just something along those lines. You'll find when I work on things, it should be, fingers crossed, fairly simple to implement these things. So it's fairly, cost effective, if you will, time wise and I think processor wise, to be able to handle these things. And then we really open up the ability of other people that want to use our package to be able to create the key bindings they want. Now, that's both users of the package might want to do something like that, and also package authors might want to do that. Like as the override audit author, I might want to create special tie-ins, and this is how I could pull that off. Now, all of these are very similar to this. So here's how this works. When Sublime is considering whether or not a key binding should be in effect, it has a list of keys. Now, just to demonstrate this, I'm going to open this. We know over here on the left is all of the keys from the default key map, right, for Linux. Over here is all the keys in my user-specific Linux key map. And there's also a default.sublime key map that also exists, which, because it doesn't have a platform listed in it, automatically those key bindings apply to all platforms. And the way Sublime loads resources, it would load the base one first, then it loads the platform-specific ones, and it also loads resources in a particular order. Default first, user last, and every other package inside, the resources from there are pulled out in lexical order. Now, what it actually is doing, it's not saying, for example, that because there is a Control-Alt-Shift-S here, it doesn't look through its big old list of mappings to see if there's a Control-Alt-Shift-F somewhere up above and then kick it out. I mean, theoretically, it might do that. We don't know. Just from observation, this is how this works. It actually keeps these key bindings in one big list. And when you press Control Alt Shift S, it starts at the bottom of that list and scans upward until it finds either the start of the list, in which case that key is not bound and nothing happens, or it finds a key entry with a context that passes. And it's actually important in cases where you have, as we saw over here, multiple things with escape. To some degree, the order of these in the file is important. Maybe not in this particular case, but when you press escape, Sublime's going to say, okay, well, first, this is the first one I see. Is the autocomplete visible? If it is, call hide autocomplete. And if it's not, then it goes to the next one and says, okay, is pop-up visible? True. If it is, I want to hide the pop-up. And if not, it goes up again. So what this means is if it was possible for the overlay to be open, which is, this, and for the autocomplete to be open, which is, I guess I'd have to do it over here. If that could happen at the same time as this, which as we can see now it can't, then pushing escape would close the autocomplete before it would close the command palette because of the way these are ordered in the list. So that's how these contexts work. It scans upwards until it finds one that matches. And as a result of that, you want to be, do as little work as possible in these things because they are going to trigger every time a key is pressed. I wouldn't say we necessarily need to be super paranoid about that. But the other key thing here is, and I believe if we actually looked in here, if I went to on query context like so, it says it's called when determining if it should trigger a key binding with the given context key. If the plugin knows how to respond to the context, it should return true or false. If the context is unknown, it should return none. And that's just to keep your hands off of things because multiple plugins could theoretically have the same key, or even if they couldn't, it would be unfortunate if some other plugin responded to hyperhelp is authoring as a context key by saying, what? No, this isn't authoring. I don't even know what that context is. If it returned false, then Sublime would never ask us and it would just assume the answer is false. So it defaults to, if you say yes, I believe you. If you say no, I believe you. And if you say none, I skip you because you don't know what you're talking about. It's basically the way that works. I think we should actually split this out because there are going to be a few of them. And as we can see here, the way that I'm pulling this off, there are quite a few operators here, as we can see. Equal is the one value equal to the other. Not equal is the value not equal. Do they match for regexes? Do they not match for regexes? Does this regex contain the other? Does that contain the other? Which is why we have this set up in this particular way. If the key is anything other than hyperhelp that is authoring, we immediately return none. I don't know what that context is. Don't ask me. Go away. If it is authoring, then the left-hand side of the equation is read-only being equal to false, and the right-hand side is a Boolean version of whatever the operand was provided. Then we can continue. We'd actually know what this is. If we were asked if they're equal, say if they're equal. If we're asked if they're not equal, then say if they're not equal. If we were asked if one regex matches the other or doesn't or contains, we return none. We return, I don't know what you're trying to do, but I don't know how to do that. And that's what we're going to do here. So I think more or less what we can do is just have a nice chain of those. But because of the way this works, I think I'd like this to be its own little file over here. So I'm going to say copy that and then say new file relative to current view, and we'll probably call it contexts. let's say. That seems like a nice name. We'll paste that in. We'll rename the file to context.py, I guess, so that it's not all gross. Over here, we are going to remove this and save. And over here, we are going to clean up everything we know we don't need. We definitely don't need any of that. We don't need any of that. Do we need a package index watcher? No, I don't think we do. And everything we're doing here also doesn't require any of that. We don't need to show pop-up helper. All we really need is that. And all of this stuff can also similarly go away. And primarily, the reasoning behind this has a lot to do with how that onHover event is kind of long. Now, this can't have the same name as that, so we might call this hyperhelp context listener instead, and push save. And is it actually loading this thing? No, it's not. And the reason it's not is because I put that in the wrong place, sorta. It's not immediately. It's interesting that it's actually set to plain text, to be honest. There we go. I guess because of the way I created it. It's here, but it's not being loaded, and that's because it's here inside this, which is inside of, it's not in the top level of the package, so Sublime's not automatically loading it. So what we want to do actually is save as that into do I not have packages in this thing? Oh, there it is. If I went to packages and then I went to hyperhelp, if it's still in here, I could save it in this instead. And now we can actually see that that should be an override, I would think. Oh no, it's not considered an override because it's not part of the bootstrapped package yet. That's right. But we are seeing it being loaded, I think. Config packages, hyperhelp context.py, save that up. Oh, yeah, I just busted it by doing that. Okay, there we go. Now, just to verify that this still does what we expect, let's say print context. Now, there's way more stuff up there included than we technically care about right now. We can clean that up in a minute. So I'm going to quit and restart to make sure we have a complete clean basis of operations. Looks like it's probably okay. And what happens if I push question mark over here? Ooh, print context, global name context not defined. Well, I'll tell you what, it's definitely doing that, isn't it? Why did I think that was going to work? I think I wanted to log key. Look, there's two of them. Terminus view happened, but we left that one alone, and then we did our own thing. I guess. Ooh, look at all them triggering now. So this definitely does what we want. So now we just need to rejigger how all of those work and then try to come up with some way to test them. So that ought to be fun, right? Let's just look at this. Loading help from hyperhelp system package is unpacked. Issues may arise, but it's also up to date, so that's good. It's a sort of a weird double message, but I wasn't willing to try and constrain one just because something like that was happening. All right, so here is how we want to pull this stuff off. If I do, oh no, scroll it up. That's terrible. Current view is the help view. The thing we have to come up with here is the names of these things. If key is equal to, we're going to use this mechanism by which all of our contexts have our package name prefixed in front of them like this. That is basically because, as we just saw, if more than one package used the same context for their own stuff, it would potentially collide. And whichever one got loaded last would be the one that quote unquote wins. Um, and then one other package would be left with stuff that does not seem to jive with how its view of the world works. So current view is the help view. So we can say is help view. This is the currently focused view is any help view. Key is equal to hyperhelp dot is help source. And again, if we were to actually double check this, current view is the help view. Only return true if the currently active view is the help view for the current window. No, sorry, is the help view for this window. Not just any help view, but the help view. Next is help source. Return true if the currently active view contains help text, but the help text is editable, i.e. it's being authored. That's sort of the same as the one below. And here we would say, whoa, I can't type. The currently focused view is a help source file. That's, again, similar to one we've already got. And then if the key is equal to hyperhelp dot help visible, which I believe, whoops, I needed one more there, didn't I? Current view is the help view, current view is help source, current view is help index. Let's do that one first. Is help index pass, and the currently focused view is a help index file. Key is equal to help view is visible. Hyperhelp dot window has help. No, help visible. Well, we'll call it help. Is help visible, let's say. I like the verbiage of using using is on items that are booleans. That's what we saw over here, right? Whoops. Using too much Vim lately. Has next field. Yeah. Well, I guess it doesn't. Panel, visible, true, false. I guess that kind of, maybe we should change that. Is help view, is help source, is help index. Yeah, we could say has help view instead of is help view for this other one, but that seems to make that more complicated. Here, the current window has a help view attached, which is different from the currently focused view is the help view for this window. The next one we want is help view is showing package. Okay. Key equals hyperhelp dot is package. And here, well, what did I say in there? Did I say the current window contains a help view and the help view is showing the package provided? The current window has a help view showing the given package. LF key equals hyperhelp dot is help file. You could use both of those. Pass the current window has a help view showing the given file. Right on. Okay, so we could sort of shortcut a lot of this stuff. Now this is the, we're going to say here, this one is the legacy. Remove this once the others are fully tested. Save that. That seems to be okay. Now let's just double check all of our stuff here. Let's actually zoom that, come down here. And if we check these out, current view is the help view. This context only returns true if the currently active view is the help view for the current window. Currently focused view is the help view for this window. That sounds right. Current view is help source. Is help source says the currently focused view is a help source file. That's just the selector thing. Next, current view is help index. That's is help index. Currently focused view is a help index file. Help is visible. There's just some window here. Help view is showing package. This context would only return true if the current window contains a help view and the help view is showing the package provided. That sounds right, and is showing file. So I think that's really all that we want here for these things. So it just comes down to how we might test this. And this is one of those situations where it's entirely possible that we need to clean this code up after the fact. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. This one is going to be they're all really like a Boolean thing, right? So let's assume in all cases that the right-hand side of any one of these things is a Boolean that's being provided, except for is help package and is help file. For these two, let's say stir. I assume it's probably a string already coming in, but we'll just leave well enough alone because that's totally what's going to allow this part to do our job for us. Now we can remove all of the passes, and that should still compile. I wish there was a way to turn that off. Every time I do this, it's rewriting that settings file. It's probably more hacky than it needs to be, but I wanted it to be able to persist that information. Okay, so now we need what the left-hand side of is the currently focused view is the help view for this window. So for this, we need find help view. Search for and return the help view for in the provided window. Defaults to searching the current window if none is provided. I don't think we want to do that. This is going to either return a view or it's going to return none, right? Yeah, because it falls off the bottom. That's probably unhappy. So what we're going to need to do is that's in view.py, find help view. We have that one. So let's move that up to here so we know that's definitely one we want for find help view. So help view is equal to find help view of view.window. And if that's the case, the left-hand side is equal to help view is not none and help view.id equals view.id. I believe that's what we want to do here, but we can actually check to see if this does what I think it does. View.id is this one, and it says returns a number that uniquely identifies this view. So that would be the case. So let's check our logic for this thing. If we are asked if is this view the help view, we come up with a view that represents the current view in the window, which could be none. And then with the left-hand side is true when there is a help view and its ID is the same. So if you said hyperhelp is help view true, true would only be equal to true when the help view is there. If there wasn't a help view, then the help view is not none would return false, I would imagine, and then true is not equal to false unless you didn't want that. We're gonna test that bad boy, of course. I think that's probably what we want. LHS is equal to view dot match selector text dot hyper help dot help, and I'm going from memory as if that's the thing. Checks the selector against the scope at the given point, returning bool if they match. So that's probably what we want there. We want a similar item here, only we want text.hyperhelp.index. Now you'll note we're still doing this based on the selector, which is something that you could already do. But now we can change that selector with impunity and people's key bindings will still work because they're not relying on knowing what it is. LHS is equal to find help view view.window is not none because we only need to care if it has a help view. So it either does or it doesn't. And this one's more complicated. There is something that does this. Current help package and current help file from common. So let's go ahead and do that. Jump back over to here. Let's assume we want the log functionality and we also want those. We probably maybe do that this way. I assume that's well behind, yeah. From common, from view. Are we calling help index list? No. Lookup help topic? No. Valid? No. I'm sure we're not calling any of those, so we can just get rid of all of those right from the get. Tighten that up nicely. Now, if we actually have to look at the definition of current help package, obtain the package that contains the currently displayed help file or none of help is invisible. Looks in the help view provided or the help view of the past in window or the help view in the currently active window. So I think we want to use the version that uses the currently active window. Because if we looked at, well, not that. We want to know the current window has a help view showing the given package. So we want to call this with window equals. Okay. So we might say here that the left-hand side is equal to find help view for, oh, no, sorry, that's not what we want to do. Current help file for window equals view dot window, like so. And the right-hand side is the string version of whatever operand. And the same would also happen here, only it's, oh, sorry, this one's current help package. Excuse me, I was looking at the bottom one. And then we can get rid of that one. That still seems to work. Now, how the heck do we go about testing this bad boy? It's the $1 billion question. What does this key do? Nothing special, huh? That's good. I'm going to open my key bindings. And oh, I'm going to be sad about it is what I'm going to be. Let's make this little window a little wider, shall we? Zoom that because we don't care about the other side. Zero. Whoa, stop it. I would dearly love a key binding where when you push the open key binding thing in this file, it automatically scoops to the end if the current scope is the one that knows that you're about to enter a key binding, because that's a bummer. The keys we're going to want is, let's say, super plus T. The command we're going to say is echo. The args we're going to say, just for now, we'll say sample yes. So if I push the key, we see it doing that, okay? And then we say there's a context. That one. And we need some sort of context in here. I can never remember if there is actually, we'll just copy this one. I get the feeling there's something in package dev that actually inserts these things for you, but I can never remember what it is. So let us, I'm going to zoom that over to this other window for a second. So I can copy all of these. These are the ones we're testing. That was weird. Create a new view, go like that, and yeah, I think we don't want any of these things in here, right? Zoop, and L's go away, and copy. There's probably a cooler way to do that, but I haven't quite decided what exactly I want to do here. Besides this. Okay. We're going to say, ooh, that and this should both be, whoa, I should copy that first, you're saying, okay, like so. Both of those should look like that, equals, we'll say true. Incidentally, I didn't talk about it, but that, excuse me, I had an itchy ear there. That match all thing there, that gets it to do a verification on whether or not the context is true at every cursor position in the current file. So if the context was that the scope was comment.line, here it would match, here it wouldn't. And if there was a cursor in both of them and match all was true, it wouldn't match. But if match all was false, it would match because one of them is true. All of our things rely on views existing or having specific settings. So whether or not anyone sets that to true or false, it's still going to work the same for us regardless. So now we're going to need two of these actually. Because in this one, we're going to say no. And in this one, we're going to say false. I should actually pull that out like so. And close this. Okay. What we could do is add this to this window so we can test this stuff out. So, in theory, and we're really flying by the seat of our pants here, we'll do this with this console on this window here. This should whenever I push this should return true, or it should say is help view yes when its cursor is actually in the help view, and no when it's not in the help view. So right now it should say no. It doesn't say anything. Maybe I got to save the file first. It still doesn't say anything. Do I have more than one of these things in here? Because they do trigger bottom up. Oh, okay. This just wasn't at the bottom of the console. Okay, that's cool. That says no. This one says no, I assume. Is this the help view? Yes, that's good to know. Is this the help view? No. So that one works. Yay for us. The next one is help source. So again, we can replace those with that. Try it again. Is this help source? No. Is this help source? No. Is this help source? Should be. It is. What about this one up here that's technically help, but it's read-only, so it's the actual help view? That one also says yes, huh? That's because of that part that was in there before that we forgot to do. Is help source. View match selector that. And view dot is read only. Well, that's a bit of a but nevertheless. Now let's double checker. That's not help source. This isn't help source. Oh, sorry. I think I reverse fixed it, so now it works there and not here. That should specifically say that. Okay. This isn't help source. This is help source because read only is false. This is not help source because it's the actual help view. Theoretically, that could also be done by doing the same thing we're doing for hyperhelp is help view. Where we might also note that, no, I guess we do need to check that. Okay, so that's going to need some cleaning up, but it works. Next is help index. Okay, well, that one should be, I'll copy that. Well, actually, we don't. We got that one here. Again, that one should be pretty self-explanatory. Zoop those out. Is this the help index? No. What about this one? Still no. Better believe that's a no. What about this one? That's all kinds of help index, so that's nice. That's doing what we want. That's good. Okay. Next up is help visible. That's going to be replacing all of these. Now, if I push it here, it should say yes, and here it should say yes, and here it should say yes, because it's referring to the actual view in the window. If I had a new window open, and I pushed it in here, whoops, it says no, because help's not visible in this window. But if I do that, now help is visible in this window, and when I close it, help is no longer visible. So that one works. Is help package. Now here's where we have to change this a little bit. Zoop those out like so. This is still a yes and no there, but here the operand has to be different. So yeah, we want it to be the same both ways, don't we? Yeah, we do. Now, as it transpires, I'm not actually sure what the help package name for that is. I know the package for this one is user, so let's do that. If I did this and said user, like so. Now, if we remember, what does this one actually supposed to do? It's supposed to be yes when the down here, the help view is visible and it's displaying the help for the provided package. So right now, it should say no. But, okay, that's somewhat of an unfortunate. What did I do here? Is help package user. Oh, I have two of them here now, don't I? Is that actually? No, it's not. Let's clear that console. This is, I say, this is one of those ones that's potentially kind of tricky. We're going to have to look at our code and see. Can you compare strings with equality? I assume so. Is help package. Let's go ahead and log LHS RHS. Oh, sorry. That should be. I forgot what I was doing there. Percent. Oh, I see. I don't need two of them for that because it's either true or not. Okay, yeah. Egg on my face. Is that actually how we want this to work, though? I mean, the idea is this context returns. This context triggers when the current package is user. Otherwise, it does what it would normally do. So, right, that's why it inserts T in this window. If I said browse available, browse available help and pick the user, just picked anything. Now, when I come over here, when I push the key, we get it to say that, well, it says no, because I didn't save that file. There we go. Both of those keys trigger the same way. So we see it saying that, yes, this is the help package, so that key binding is triggering, so it's not just inserting the T. If I was to close that, now it starts inserting T again. If I browse available help for hyperhelp, it is inserting the T. And then if I browse available help to user and pick that, just because now it goes again. And when I go back to that one, it goes back to doing that. So yeah, that 100% works the way we want it to work, per se. So good. Close without saving. And let's go ahead and, whoops, should be looking at this one. I'm going to close that one because we don't care. Over here, we just say we stop logging that. And that works the same, but with a file instead. So if we instead said is help file, copy, and whoops, well, change those two, and say we changed this to index.text, like so. Now, if I zoom that out, well, I guess I probably could have did that, huh? This file's name is view.txt, so this should insert the T, and it does. If I jumped to the index, now it says that this is the help file that we said we wanted. And if we navigate away back to where we were, it goes back to not working. And we could also verify that the same thing happens when there's no help at all visible in the window. And for one last check, were we getting some Sublime API as a package? We could also say is help package, and if the package was set to Sublime API, and this was set to is API index, yes. Now, when I do this, I get the T. If I browsed available help to user and went to the, well, is there even an index.txt in this thing? I assume there should be. Oh, that might actually just be the file that we're currently in. Yeah. So here we're in user.txt, but we're not in the Sublime API, so it still doesn't work. And if we go back, of course, that's the view file. And if we actually did this, now when we try it, this is the API index. So we have successfully made key bindings here that allow us to fiddle these things around. So that is actually pretty sweet. I'm going to go ahead and remove all of those from my key bindings before I forget. And we close that up. Now, close that one up. There's, as I said, still some work to do here because this whole hyperhelp dot is authoring thing should be using some of the other ones now. I really don't like how that one spans a line. It sort of shoots off to the end there, if you will. But I don't know how much we care about that per se. I mean, I try not to do that, but the alternative is like this. Which I guess still works, but I've never really liked the way that looks. I guess it's not terrible, but Oh, before I forget, remember when I thought that there was a bug where the mini diff didn't display along the left side of the window like seems to currently be displaying right now? 100% of the reason for that is that I have my panel over here set to auto hide, and for some reason, it still has a visible pixel there. And at the same time, the window manager I'm using, XFCE, has a default that says when the window is maximized, hide the frame, which adds an extra 6, 8 pixels of space on the left and right and top and bottom, which is great. But what it was actually doing was making this little sidebar thing here for the panel pop out overlay the first 3 of the 4 pixels of the mini diff indicator. I didn't like that, so that's why my panel is set to be this color, because that's the color of my background, so they just sort of seem to hover there. But also, it stands out here. It doesn't it provides more contrast there, and I made these wider as well so that it all seems to, work real nice. Maybe we do want to, let's search for this, but not in that. Oh, wow. Hyperhelp resources default Linux. Boy, there's a lot of these things. No, I should have known. and for OS X and for Windows. And that's the key in there. That's the actual source. So, I'm going to leave well enough alone for that because I'm not going to check this code in right now. But it's actually a pretty nice little change there. So we have greater ways to, and you know what? Let's look at one of these things so we can see, maybe how much better this might look. If we look at the Linux key bindings, and again, we need to syntax like that. So this file doesn't have the right extension to make sure Sublime ignores it. We see here we're using the selector of text hyperhelp help and is authoring false, which is weird because we want the question mark. Oh yeah, that's right. Is authoring means it's the help source. So we're using two contexts here, and as you can just see, even though I'm the one that wrote this thing, I'm still kind of confused about what that's doing. Just to show us how this would actually work. We'll actually do one just so we can see it working in quote unquote context. Hyperhelp, and we want resources default Linux Sublime key map. We might actually be able to replace a bunch of these just per se. If I did this, can I just keep? Yeah, huh? Okay. Well, maybe it's easy enough to try one. Whoops. If the key was, what are we looking for here? These are all things that should happen for is help view, which is this one. These keys should only work inside of a help view. Is help view operator equal operand should be true. If I copy that and then do this, I got two here, so I can delete a couple of those out. Save that. Oops. That still seems to work. All right, well, let's go ahead and if that's as easy as it's going to be for these for these things. Yeah, okay. Let's, again, go ahead and we'll copy that one just to make sure. That was the Linux key bindings. We have to do it the hard way, right? Open resource from hyperhelp in resources in OS X. And we want to do the same thing here as we did there. Like so. Save it and open resource from hyperhelp in resources windows.sublime keymap. Yep. Do a little bit of that action. So let's say those are all in play there. And what we could actually also do, just minimize that for a second. Snappy's resources for its key bindings. Yeah, they're all very simplistic. Those actually shouldn't be, I don't know if that's even like a valid default. I mean, it kind of works on Windows. That's the one I've been using, so that's the one I just stuck in there, but that's something that we should probably change at some point. And if we look for hyperhelp author and its resources, we can actually use a new one for that as well. These ones are all more complicated auto pairing type things and auto match enabled settings type things. So it's really just these ones that we need to worry about. And again, if I can do that, yeah, I know it doesn't work. That's okay. These were supposed to be checking if this isn't help index. So we could actually just use this. And if the key was hyperhelp, is it help index? And the operand was true. Then do that. And fix that one as well. And before we go too far with that, that's the keys for reloading help and reloading an index. Ooh, did I do that one wrong? I think I might have. Let's test this one first. That still works. Okay. I believe this one probably won't because I don't think that was the right thing to do there. Yeah, but what we can do is zoom that and say this. That used to be text hyper help help, so we want that to say is, oh, gee, that's good. It just needed to know if it was help. Well, we'll change this to is help view. I think that's what we want to do there. So now that should reload that. What it won't do is trigger in this, which I think maybe it should have. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. Normally I use the keystrokes for that, but if I accidentally do it, I get all paranoid that I don't know what I'm doing. Turn that off now. I can make another one of these, because if it was before just checking if it was a help file without caring, then we might have wanted to be able to reload source as well, in which case we want to be able to do this. This is not the current help file. Okay, so now see as we maybe we want another context for just is help, so that you know if it's happening in the help view, you know if it's helping in help source, and you know if it's just helping in help. If I was to edit this help file like this, now when I push the key, it will, well, in theory, it should. There are issues with the HyperHelp authoring tools currently. Let's go ahead and do that. What the hell? Is help view, is help source. We'll just say is help. Which doesn't have this part. And then over here, this doesn't have to have a second one. It could just say is help. And now if I do it here, it's reloaded the help file, and here it'll say it's not the current help file, so it's still doing both. Okay, that's what we want to do for that, which is one of those things that's quote unquote unfortunate. So now we've got to do multiple things. Let's move that one over to there. We'll open the one for OS X and Windows, turn off the sidebar. Well, actually, I guess we could do this, couldn't we? Copy those. I assume these are both in the same order. Get rid of that one and this one as well. Close that. Those ones are easier packages to deal with. We close that one. We can. So we have. Whoops, that's not what I want to do. We have done all of those plus one extra. Now the next one is how to best bump the minimum version of Sublime for override audit. Now this one, I'm not entirely sure if what I'm trying to do will work or if how I would go about doing it will work. Hang on a second here. So this is an example of something that I would do before I asked a question. Excuse me. Got the sneezies. Uh, I want to, and actually what we should do here is swap this to override audit, like so. So we can take a look at, unless I got rid of it, the channel entry.json file, which should have the mark for that, because this is the file that is untracked, like that. So there's still an issue with that, apparently. I'll have to remember to log something like that. Here's the idea. And again, you know what? Let's actually go and I can't remember exactly how this is supposed to work. So we are going to need some example-y type stuff here. I went to GitHub and what are we actually looking for here? Package control channel is what we're looking for. We're not going to find it there though. Go away. Hmm. Is this zoomed in so much that it thinks that it's a mobile site? Does it always do that? I'm not sure. But that's totally the thing I want, so that's nice. Oh, see, it's up there now. It's just something weird about the thing. Okay. Well, actually, there was another one I wanted as well. It just occurred to me that that's the one that I should look at. So if we went to, actually, maybe if I did this, then I could look at Sublime packages like so. Look at packages.json. This is what the file looks like right now. And I need to take a note of this. Well, no, I don't. We'll do that another way. This is what the current channel file repository entry for override audit looks like. And this says that for all release one of the list, this is a list of releases, I should say. I'm describing that wrong. There can be more than one thing in here because you might have a different release per platform or something. But here we're saying that this release has tags true, which is required to get into the package control channel, which means that versions of your package are based on tags, the default tag being just a tag prefix. And if you just say tags true, it assumes the tag is a lowercase v, which is optional. And otherwise, you can put any text there you want. And package control uses that when you're in Sublime looking for packages to install to determine what version is relevant to you by removing the prefix and then using the version number. And this is specifically saying that override audit requires Sublime Text build 3092 or greater. And if you use a version less than that, it just won't work. And that's something that I specifically set up because there were certain things I wanted to use, like Sublime syntaxes, and that's the minimum version where you could actually do that. Everything else is, all the other functionality revolves around that working that way. Okay. Excuse me. Now, what we want is when we release Override Audit version 2, we want something along the lines of this. Not exactly this, because I'm sort of changing how this would work. And we can see how long ago I planned on doing this. Sublime Text 3143, I think, is like officially version 3.0 or something. But there can be more than one here, as we can see with different tags. Tags true is that default V. This is this. And then this is saying for any build greater than or equal to build 3092, use, and see, and this is like, I don't think right, but I don't know because this is what we're testing here. Any version has for this build has to be tagged with ST3143, and all builds greater than 3143 will use this instead. So what we want is to create a channel entry for override audit that says version 3092 and up. It totally, this tag applies. And for Sublime Text versions greater than whatever the build number for Sublime Text 3.2 is, well, actually one less than, they say greater than or equal to whatever build Sublime Text 3.2 is, we want to use versions tagged with V instead. And I think the way that works would do what we want. And that way, older versions can still install legacy versions of the package. Newer versions of Sublime will automatically use version 2, and anyone using an older version will be blocked from installing version 2. Now, I'm not entirely sure how to pull this off, and I thought there are people I could ask in the Discord, and there is some documentation on this, but I do like to try and, before I ask a question, I like to do my due diligence on research to see how best to ask a question, because, perhaps little known fact, but when you ask a tech support question, the more detail you can provide, the more likely someone will want to help you, because it, among other things, it answers questions that they need answered to help you, but it also proves that you've done some sort of research on your own and you're not just trying to get them to do your work for you. But it's even better if you can say, I tried this and it didn't work, and I tried that and it didn't work, or something along those lines, which again proves that you're actually trying to solve your problem yourself and you're not just hoping someone else will solve your problem for you. Some example questions in the Stack Overflow have, from new users, have just been like, I want to build a web page, as a question. Like, well, that's nice. I don't know that that's a programming question. You certainly haven't proven that you've actually tried. Those sorts of people don't get as much help, which is ironic because those are the sorts of people that maybe need help the most. So what we're gonna do is um, come up with our own pretend package to work with. Um, Maybe this thing is just way too zoomed. Oh, that makes that side way unhappy. We'll zoom her in a little bit. I forgot this monitor is currently at a much lower resolution for the stream. Um, oh man, more sneezes. Come on, man. Oh, man. Hopefully, I didn't bump the uh, headset mic the microphone too much there. Um, let's go back to the dashboard. Switch the context back to me. Create a new repository. We'll call it OdatNurd test package, and we'll say a test package for testing packages. Let's say, and let's say we add a license, the MIT license, and we'll initialize it with the repository, because then there'll be something in the thing and we're good to go, right? And go ahead like so. I suppose for our purposes, it's enough to know if it actually installs the thing. I guess I did want to add some extra stuff in there. We want something like this. So let's say we create a new file named, whoa, no, no. Yeah, I did not mean to do that. I don't normally create a new file. Paste it there. Its name is messages.json, if I recall correctly. Yes, and we want that. And we'll say version 1.2.3. And this needs to be 1.2.3. And we add multiple files to this bad boy at once. Or do you have to do them one at a time? I assume you got to do them one at a time. Yeah, preview our JSON file. Okay. Let's just verify that we're doing that correctly. Yeah, that looks right. Okay. I'm not even gonna, oh yeah. Create a messages.json file. You know what it does. And we will commit that file directly to master. Now we need to create a new file, and I believe what we want to call it is messages/install.txt. And the files would be, you just install the OdatNurd test package. Yay. And we will add message 1. It's the first of 2. Commit the new file. And then we'll create a new file called 1.2.3.txt and say, I'm the contents of the 1.2.3 message file. Go me. Even in a sample file, it bothers me to make typos. And include message 2. Yeah, that thing. This is a package that's going to go away. We'll commit that directly. So now let's look on down here. We can see we got something. The next thing we need is some sort of repository, some sort of package file. Now I'm going to need to actually do this. Could I have enough GitHub windows open? Do that so I can come back to look at this thing. And I think, I'm not 100% sure that this will work. Web root. Sublime 3. That looks like something. And this one. Edit that file. Okay. We actually want something that looks like this, I would imagine, in this thing. Is this terribly indented? Oh, you are terribly indented, my friend. Terribly indented. There. We'll add this one here, like so. Yeah, you're also terribly indented. Now, if we came back to here, this should all be stuff that we're familiar with, I would think, because we did do this in a different stream. OdatNurd text package is what we called the thing. OdatNurd test package. All the rest of the information comes from the URL, which is this one. So we can go ahead and scoop that like so. Re-upload that bad boy. Now, just to test that, if I said install package, it has to download some stuff. Maybe it's working. Hopefully it's working. And I said OdatNurd test package didn't work, huh? Error parsing JSON from. Oh, what did I do wrong? Might have done something wrong. I might not be able to do this the way I'm doing it. JSON validator. Yeah, you'll do. Despite the fact that I always want to click the button. Expected string. Okay, where did I go wrong? Line 30. Oh, there's a trailing comma. I hate you, Jason. I hate you so much. Okay. Install package. And now it's probably not going to work because it's got a cached copy of the damn thing. Open it up again. Might need to. Dump the cache in this bad boy. No valid. Oh, I forgot to add. Okay. Okay, that was one more thing that I did know that I needed to do here. So what we're gonna, this is a test package for testing. As of right now, we're going to go to releases and say create a new release. And we're tagging version 0 or 1.2.3 because that's what we called it there, right? And the first release. This is the legacy release of this code. Yay. Okay, and we can say publish release. Like so. Now we know there is one release tagged version 1.2.3. So now, and again, you have to quit and restart because package control caches this stuff, which is irritating right now, but believe me, if you saw how long that took the first time and right now, you do want it to cache that per run. Otherwise, you're going to go crazy. Possibly there's a setting you can use to turn that off. So here's OdatNurd test package, a test package for testing packages. I pick it. Error parsing messages.json. What's wrong with it now? I did the same thing in that one, didn't I? See, this, I was going to do this, offline, but I don't know that that necessarily even matters. There's a trailing comma. Oh, good gravy. Curse. Oh, I need to yell for this one. Commit changes. Okay, now how unhappy are we? Because we have to go back to code, and then we have to go back to release, and then we need to, like edit the release. Maybe we go to tags, and we say, can we just delete this stupid tag? I don't even know. What's this? That's interesting. Edit this release. Yeah, this really leaves a lot to be desired, GitHub people. Is there a way to delete tags in this stupid thing without cloning the damn thing and forcing it back, Whoops. Can you delete tags in this thing? I'm not even sure. Yeah. And create tag here. V1.2.3. We'll do that. And then we'll quit this out, and then we'll git push. Maybe we'll even have to, whoops. We'll git push tags. because I think we might need to force. I'm not sure. Yeah. Now, does this automatically update? Yes. Okay. Finally, we can finally get on with our dang test. Okay, so we're going to install a package. We're going to install OdatNurd test package. And look, we just installed the OdatNurd test package. Yay! Now it doesn't display that version number thing because that's only for when upgrades happen, I believe. But if I looked at package control list packages, we can see I'm using version 1.2.3 from there. So that is good. That's what we want. Now what we're going to do is quit that, and we need to go back to the main part of the repository because we need to test exactly what it is we're planning on doing here, right? We want, actually not that one. We actually need that file that we just had open over here, unfortunately. I'm gonna have to open that thing in a terminal, I suppose. Let's see. Maybe I can just do that over here. Da, 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 da. Do I know where these files are even kept? Not there. Here? Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, maybe we want that. Maybe we want that here. We'll make that one egg, and we'll cap this one as dart. So if we need to refer to the two, we'll know which one they're referring to. Now over here, in JSON land 3092. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Make dir package test and cd package test. So we're going to sd3 deploy sandbox 3091. I changed this script since the last time I showed it, and deploy sandbox 3092. Now we're also going, well, we'll worry about that in a minute. So we're going to say if I went to cd, no, I can do it this way. Sublime Text 3091 Sublime Text like so. Oh, shit, no, I have some stuff running that I shouldn't, or I broke my sandbox script, one of those two. Let's see. Isn't that what I just did? Weird, but whatever. Open that up, and oh, something's unhappy. I think we might need to uninstall and reinstall package control. And this is a really old build, so that would be a pain in the butt. Well, you know, we do what we must. Let's just start it from fresh and make sure it is, yes, it is very mad. Now, maybe this doesn't even work in this version. I don't know. I do have my sandbox thing set up to assume various things. Perhaps facts not in evidence. I'll remove both of those. And start it up again. Now I believe we need to manually install the thing now. So in order to do that, we have to go back to the old-fashioned Oh, I have a button for that. The old-fashioned method of installation, which is to copy something like so, and paste it into the console like this. Maybe we just can't do it here because it is very unhappy. Where's my mouse cursor? It's even more unhappy. Well, we'll see if it works in 3092. Perhaps this whole thing is going to run afoul of something, and package control itself doesn't support older versions of Sublime anymore. That'd be a hell of a thing. I did say 3092 is the minimum version, right? So let's say 3092 dot that Sublime Text like so. Yeah, it doesn't like that either, huh? Okay, well, what we're going to have to do is jump to a more recent version of Sublime. Start from here. Does it work here? Yes. Okay. So let's quit that. Let's go ahead and we'll use this as the base. And 3092. So this is our like in the past version, right? And I could say Sublime Text 33143 Sublime Text and start, and we want to install package, and the package we want to install is what's wrong with it now? Old versions of this can't talk to for the love of Pete, man. What the hell version of Sublime was the one where they fixed that? This, incidentally, is another reason to not support older versions, apparently. Let's go over here to the... Whoops, no, that's not what we wanted. We wanted this one. My bad. To the download. 3176. Is there anything here about SSL? Really? The build right after 3143? What do we got? 3170. Okay. I'm going to write this down. Maybe if I can find a pen that will write on my boogie board. Okay, so let's say 3.1 is 3170. So already, maybe we don't even need to worry about this whole business, to be perfectly honest. The latest dev build as of right now, if we looked here, is the latest is build 3197. So we'll say the midpoint is 3190, let's say, for something that we're about to test in a minute. We're really running low on stream time here, and this part isn't going. So we might not even finish this, but I'd really like to see how well this may or may not work. So we do want, I said 3170 is one that'll probably be okay. So if we RM minus RF 3143 and subble, whoops, ST3 deploy sandbox for 3170. I mean, theoretically, I could probably just drop packages into the thing if I needed them, so that's still okay for the general case of testing things in older versions. But, okay. It is seeming to be loading. And OdatNurd test package. We're going to go like that. And we just installed the OdatNurd test package. Yay! And then we quit. Next, we want to deploy the sandbox for the current version, which is 3197, let's say. We'll pretend that that's the Sublime Text version 3.2, even though it's still got a couple of more builds there. People are rooting for build 3200 even to be Sublime Text 3.2. I don't blame them, because that would be very cool. If I start this one and install package, wait a little bit longer, excuse me, perhaps cough into the microphone inappropriately. OdatNurd text package, install that there. That represents what the cutting edge version of this is. And then let's say 3190, 30 builds 3190 is the new, well, even this went so poorly that I actually forgot. We do want another version here. And we'll say 3190 as sort of a mid-pointy type thing, like this. Okay, now, and we want to go into that one, and, oh, whoops, see, Sublime Text 3190, and we'll install it in this one too. Tick, 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 ODAT. Oh, what's it? Rate limit. Oh, now I can't install the damn thing because of rate limits. Oh. The universe hates me, you know? You think if I restart it, it'll magically work? No. So that's not something that we can actually finish testing tonight. I guess I got to wait a couple of hours for rate limit things to reset. But here's the general idea of what we want to do. We want to go into this file and edit it and say 2.3.4. And that is going to be messages slash 2.3.4.text. We remember not to add a semicolon there. And then we say something kind of dispirited now and commit that change. Then we come back to the test package and go into this and create a new file named 2.3.4.text. And then we say, I guess this is the new and improved version 2. Yay. And we go ahead and say one more. Kind of tired. Not even gonna fix the typo. And save that. So now we got those things set up. And at this point, here's what we do. We go to the releases and we create a new release. And here we say this release is version 2.3.4. The second release, and say this one is the one that's super duper cool and stuff. Okay. And we publish this as a release. So now we have two versions here if we actually looked at our releases theoretically. Yeah, and that page doesn't update for beans, but we have two of those things there like that. Now, what we also need to do here is come back to here where I had this thing. And I don't even know, yeah, so I put it here. Pull down all the changes from there. Now, I'm sorry, smurge dot to open this thing up. What we want to do now is create a new tag here. And we will call this legacy-v 1.2.3, like this, okay? And we'll push the tag. So that one's up as well. So now that file, this version is tagged with the v1.2.3 and it's tagged with the legacy v1.2.3 like that. Now here's the part where we can't actually test it because package control or me or something hit the rate limit for being able to do stuff. What we want is that thing very similar to this. Maybe I can even pop that down and size this up a little so we can see both of them at the same time. Build greater than equal to 30. We actually want this to be now. Try not to assume that this is Sublime. Legacy dash V is that one. And then we add a new one here, like this. And in this one, we would say 3197, and this is just tags true, like this. And save it. Now here's the theory about how this is supposed to work, and we'll have to cover that, maybe in next week's stream. We can talk about this particular thing, but the idea now is when package control is asked to find packages, it comes here, it finds this, it scans all of the releases. It decides based on your version number which of these two things it should use. So if your build number is 3197 or greater, then it chooses tags true, which means it only is going to accept items that are tagged V something 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 or just something 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 like 2.3.4 or V 2.3.4. It automatically disregards the other one because this one has a higher version and takes more precedence, I think. And as a result, build 3197 will install version 2.3.4. For versions 3196 and below, like say that 3170 or even 3190, which we installed but didn't get a chance to install the package in, their build isn't greater than or equal to 3197. It's greater than or equal to 3192. So those ones will only accept releases using tags starting with legacy-v. So in those ones, version 2 builds won't be accepted, and it's basically quote unquote stuck on version 1. And I'm doing that with legacy-v instead of what I had up here, which was based on some input I had on this a couple of years ago, because I decided that I might actually want to create a new legacy release for an older version, which, as we just saw, is kind of tricky because you need a fairly recent version to do that. So basically, we're stopping people from using 3.1 or something. But I don't care about that. I want to leave the possibility open because you never know. And in that case, we could tag other releases with legacy-v. Now, the thing I wanted to test here is this the way to do this? And what happens to the fact that that one build is tagged twice? I think that's okay, and that is going to, or perhaps even necessary, to make sure that the legacy versions can still see the legacy version 1.2.3, because otherwise they wouldn't even see that tag and wouldn't be able to install it anymore because it's got the wrong prefix. But we're going to have to defer testing on that for a day that's not today because GitHub is being a bit of a dip. So we're going to go ahead and call that an end to this stream. And thank you so much for watching. It's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. Not too shabby. We got some context work done. We got some research done. Not as much as we would have liked to have gotten done. But, what can you do? Now, live streams going forward, of course, still Sundays, 8 o'clock. I'm trying to use the new system, well, new to me system in YouTube called Events for live streams that would allow me to schedule more than one in advance. It's a little bit of a different way to stream things, so I'm going to have to test that out as well to make sure that I still know how to do it. And the idea is I would like to get some things scheduled in advance, and we're going to schedule them, I think, by package topic. So you might see one that is just scheduled that says Hyperhelp Author or Snappy or Hyperhelp or Override Audit or something. And what the actual item is might get added closer to the actual time. The problem with that is I really don't want to work on Override Audit and get any changes ready in there until the version 2 is officially released, because having the two versions diverge is terrible. And even having code off of version 2.0 ready to go for a version 2.0.1 or something is not something I want to do, because I might have to make changes during the release or something. So we're probably not going to see any override audit help until a new version 3.2 of Sublime drops, which is hopefully soon. Like I say, they think it's pretty stable now. Um, so we'll see what happens in that regard. But until then, keep in mind, if this was just, basically an excuse for me to work on my own packages and sort of be held accountable to actually make sure I'm actually doing something. If you're watching this and any of this stuff intrigued you and you want to know more about what I was doing, why I was doing, the ins and outs of how it works, you want to create a package of your own and you don't know how and you have questions, go on down into the comment section, drop a comment there, as you just saw a bunch of times. If you send a mail to odatnerd@gmail.com, you could also get me that way. You can hit me on Twitter at odatnerd. And if you go to odatnerd.net, I have too many open windows. Way too many open windows. You could also find other contact methods, or at least be reminded of that one, and see other cool stuff. There's even like links to the music I listen to when I'm programming and other stuff like that. Give me those questions, and we can tailor these live streams to help you out. And until the next live stream, this is OdatNurd saying, remember to have a sublime day.